Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to return to my motherland of Scotland once again for the first time in what feels like a good little while. Now, we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel quite a few times before. These guys are another relatively new addition to the Scottish beer scene, but they have built up a very, very good reputation for themselves over the last few years. If people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're most definitely best known for their different kinds of sour beers, wild ales, whatever you want to call them, but occasionally they do put other styles out there as well, and those have also been pretty good based on my previous experiences. So pretty much anything this brewery tries, they will do it very, very well. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I have tried from this brewery before. It's one that I know they can do pretty damn well, and it's also got a little bit of a Scandinavian twist to it as well, which I'm very curious about. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to return to my motherland of Scotland. We're going to go a little bit north of where I'm from in the Central Belt up toward Dundee. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Holy Goat Brewing. So this particular beer is called Holy Mountain. I should point out as well that this is the 2023 edition because they release this every year or two from what I understand. But this one comes in at 7% ABV, and they're describing this one as a Kriek style sour ale with Stensberg sour cherries. So for those of you who don't know, Kriek is one of the lambic styles of beer. It's basically a cherry lambic, and the Stensberg sour cherries are from the island of Sjælland, which is very close to where I used to be in southern Sweden. So a very unique type of cherry actually that has a very distinctive flavour, quite woody but also very sharp and very, very juicy actually. So I'm quite curious to see what Holy Goat are going to do with these since they got their hands on them. But yeah, I've had cherry beers from Holy Goat before, and I know that they can do some very, very nice things with these guys. We've had quite a few Flanders Reds from Holy Goat over the last wee while, and yeah, I'm pretty sure they'll be able to do a kind of Kriek style lambic beer pretty damn well too. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. The Holy Mountain from the wonderful Holy Goat in Dundee in my motherland of Scotland. So as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Holy Goat before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Scottish playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, not as often as I would like these days of course, but yeah, do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. So yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Holy Goat Brewing once again then. So, Holy Goat Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in the city of Dundee in Scotland, and the company was founded back in 2021 by Johnny Horn, who was one of the co-founders of Vault City Brewing. So Johnny is originally from Wales, and he started experimenting with fermentation when he was about 15, but later he moved to Edinburgh to study for his PhD in archaeology, but he said he ended up reading more brewing textbooks than actually focusing on his PhD. But he ran the University Brewing Society and then worked at Brew Store for a while before he got a job brewing part-time at the Hanging Bat in Edinburgh on Lothian Road, which was a lovely little brew pub if you didn't know, and it was there that he began to experiment with different sour beers and wild ales starting back in about 2012. But during his time at Hanging Bat, he met Stephen Smith Hay, who was also interested in setting up his own brewery, and they were soon joined by his partner Adele Wilkie, and together they established Vault City Brewing. But initially they didn't think so much about making money, and so they set up what they called a glorified home brewing kit as their main brewery in Stephen and Adele's kitchen, and they began brewing weekly back in July of 2018. But over the next year, they began to visit different beer festivals and spread the word about their beers, and they got very, very good feedback on these. And soon after this, they started brewing their beers at 71 Brewing in Dundee, and in total, Vault City spent 16 months there. But that company was in the process of setting up their own brewery in Portobello, which is just out to the east of Edinburgh. But Johnny enjoyed the time in Dundee, and he decided that he wanted to do his own thing. So he formed Holy Goat officially in 2021. From what I understand, the main creative difference was that the guys, Stephen and Adele wanted to have a kind of base beer that they sort of played around with, whereas Johnny was more interested in doing lots of different kinds of sour beer and doing lots of different stuff. So it was just a little bit of a creative difference from what I understand. But Johnny says that the new business model he has allows him to go back to being very experimental, but also to maintain profitability. And as of October 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 90 different kinds of beer, according to Untappd. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I can tell you about Holy Goat Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and actually have a little look at the beer itself. So I'll let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. The artwork on this one, I should point out, is a little bit different to the original 2021, I think it was, edition. It's basically the label is a bit more colourful on this one. I think the other label before was just a kind of cherry red, almost like it kind of is on the back there. But yeah, really nice artwork once again. Plain silver bottle cap on this one, incidentally, and there you can see on the back the Holy Goat Brewing symbol, which you'll find on all of these beers. But yeah, it tells you a little bit about the beer on the side here. It says, inspired by the Belgian Kriek style, this golden sour beer has been aged on Danish sour cherries. This beer combines a blend of two of our favourite golden sour base beers, both brewed with local Scottish barley, wheat and oats, and fermented with multiple Brettanomyces and bacteria strains. We aged this base beer for 2 months with 700 kilograms of Stensbeer sour cherries sourced from the orchards on the Frederiksdal estate, used to produce award-winning Danish cherry wine. Known as the grapes of the north, these sour cherries are ideally suited to growing in the colder climes of Scandinavia. So yeah, I've actually never tried Danish cherry wine, but of course, because I was based in Skåne in Sweden, I've had many sour beers with Stensbeer cherries in them. But yeah, 375 milliliter bottle, this one. If memory serves me correctly, I bought this beer at Craftissimo over in Shungwan on Hong Kong Island, and I think it was about 100 Hong Kong dollars, so about £10 or something. I think this will cost you maybe about £7 or £8 these days back in the motherland of Scotland. But I love these beers, so I don't care so much about paying a little bit more for it. But yeah, a 7% Kriek style beer, this one with Stensbeer sour cherries. I think this is going to be good. Let's get it out into the glass and see what it's all about. A little bit of smoke on the opening there, but not too much. So let's do it and see what we have. So that looks beautiful, I have to say. I forgot how dark Stensbeer can actually make some of these beers, but look at that. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Didn't realise it was going to be that dark from the bottle, right enough. But yeah, before the head disappears, you can see that this beer poured with about a 3/4 finger of a frothy, kind of like, what would you say is that? Violet tinted head there. Look at that. Some medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid, and you can see that the head just gets foamier and foamier the further up that you go. But yeah, beautiful, beautiful looking beer, this one. The only way to describe this beer in terms of its colour, with it being a Scottish, is Heart of Midlothian football jersey, and probably even darker than that, come to think of it. But yeah, lovely, very dark, sort of cherry colour this one, which is to be expected, of course. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. And with the sour beers like this, the barrel aging and the adjuncts are very, very important. Obviously, a lot of the colour in this beer will be coming from the addition of those Stainsbury cherries. Quite a little bit of visible carbonation on this side of the glass going up toward the surface there. Maybe wash the glass out quite nicely just before this, so maybe just a wee imperfection on the surface or something like that. But yeah, if we shine the light through this one, it does have a little bit of a natural haze to it, and that's kind of to be expected because the beer does contain oats and wheat and things like that, and with it being Scottish oats and wheat, it's going to have a good little bit of breadiness to it as well, I would say. But yeah, little bit of visible carbonation in this one, good little bit of opacity to it as well. But other than that, I don't think we really need to say very much about the appearance of this beer. So yeah, let's have a little look at the nose and see what this one is going to have in store for us. But I think this is going to be pretty damn good. So let's have a wee look at it and see. Oh yeah, it is pretty damn nice. Now, I have to admit, when I smell this one, I don't know if I would have guessed, if I was given it blind, I don't know if I would have guessed cherry from it right away. I would have been more inclined to maybe say like black currants or something like that, because the way the cherries are coming out in this one, especially when it's Stainsbury cherries, I've always found that Stainsbury cherries have a little bit more kind of sharpness to them, but they're really quite soft and juicy and almost black curranty in this particular beer. Now that could be down to the yeasts that have been used in the base beers, or it could be down to a kind of heavier malt presence in this beer. But yeah, it's really, yeah, it really is very, very nice. This one and the way it goes together. So yeah, you've got some nice kind of bready, grainy characters coming out of this one. You've also got some really nice, you've got a little touch of hoppy character to this one, and you've got a nice juicy, fruity character coming out of it as well. So all I can say is that, you know, very, very positive things about this this particular beer. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this one, I have to say. It really is pretty damn nice aroma wise. So let's just break the aroma down for you a wee bit and describe exactly what's going on. So yeah, for me, the backbone of this beer, it's a bit humid in here, so just getting a wee bit, can make you a bit short of breath sometimes. But yeah, the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely sort of woody character to this one, which I do really quite enjoy. So yeah, there's a lovely kind of woodiness to this particular beer, and that for me forms the backbone of it. But there's little hints of kind of vanilla in there, but then it's really quite bready above that. For me, there's quite a lot of grainy presence to this one, so definitely some kind of like grainy wholemeal brown bready bread crust in there. And of course you do get a little bit of a slightly sweeter brown bread out of this one too. Definitely some kind of white bready characteristics as well. Yeah, so wholemeal brown bready character in there, grainy bread crusty character, and you've got some nice yeah, you've got some nice white bready notes out of it as well. So yeah, aroma wise, the malty side of things is quite present in this one, and you know, Scottish grains just tend to have that wee bit more kind of almost like earthiness to them as well, and just yeah, a little bit more graininess, if that makes sense. They're not the smoothest, but yeah, there is wholemeal brown bread in there with a little bit of sweetness to it, white bread, and there's definitely a little bit of like cracker and bread crust coming out of this beer as well. So yeah, the way that everything pieces together in this one, I would say, is is really, really nice. Yeah, I'm quite happy with the malty side of this beer. There are little hints of like Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotch, and a wee bit of biscuit in there, but it's quite hard to pick up in this just because of the sheer kind of juiciness of the cherries. At the back of the nose, yeah, at the back of the nose, there's some really nice, yeah, there's a good little bit of like a grainy, woody note coming out of this one. So yeah, lovely kind of brown bready, grainy, biscuity sort of character to it. And yeah, the way that that kind of pieces together as well, I think is really nice. So yeah, the yeasty character at the back of the nose is quite brown bready, quite grainy, and quite sort of biscuity. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really, really nice in this one. Interesting stuff. But yeah, I have to say I do quite like that. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that we really need to say about the malty side of this beer. So let's talk about the hoppy and fruity side of things then. So as I've said in many a video before, it's always interesting to chat to sour beer brewers about their hopping mentality with these beers, because, you know, back in the day when you were brewing the old Krieks and stuff like this, what they would do is actually put older hops into the beer that had lost a little bit of their alpha acid potency. And the idea behind that was that they didn't want the sourness of the beer to be affected by having hops that would give too much bitterness. Modern sour beer breweries, of course, add a lot of fruit into their beers, and many people say rightly that yeah, if you put fruit into the beer as an adjunct, it's going to suppress the bitterness of the beer anyway, so why bother putting the hops in? But some brewers, like Holy Goat, tend to put a little bit of hop into the beer just to give you that wee bit more flavour complexity. So yeah, it really just depends what you want to do. But this beer, you can tell, I think pretty sure there are hops have been added into this one, because you can smell it a little bit, especially from the freshness of the grassiness there. So there's definitely little hints of earthiness, little bits of woodiness, floral and grassy character as well. All of that is quite evident in this particular beer. But yeah, you've got a lot of nice, juicy, fruity character coming out of this one too, which I think is very, very nice. So as I say, it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, on the I don't know if there's anything else really to say about that green component. Yeah, a little bit earthy, a little bit woody, and very slightly vegetal as well. But then yeah, you've got some nice floral and grassy notes in there, but you can definitely smell the cherries just kind of suppressing that a little bit. And yeah, that's quite obvious. But for me, like I say, if I was smelling this one blind, I don't know if I would have picked up the Stainsbury cherries right away. But you know, because it has quite a little bit of an almost blackcurranty juiciness to it. And I remember the Stainsbury cherries being quite a little bit sharper than this. But in fairness, the beers that I would have had that in would be the Mikkeler Bauhaun beers, which were they are kind of sour lambic sort of things. So yeah, that is something to think about as well. So yeah, the beers that I would have had from Mikkeler that used the Stainsbury cherries had a lot of like really kind of big sharp characters to them. So yeah, this one is, for Stainsbury cherries, it's actually really soft and quite juicy, and of course different yeasts and different types of malts and things can bring out different characters and fruits. You know, there's not really a uniform way that ingredients will behave in beers, you have to remember that. But the aroma of this one is really, really nice. You've got the big juicy cherries in there, you've got underlying like black currants and blackberries and stuff like this as well. Maybe a soft little, like a little bit of figgy character as well, in all honesty. But yeah, aroma wise, it reminds me, actually, the aroma of this one reminds me of those, you know, Haribo strawberry sweets. You get quite a little bit of that out of this. But yeah, really, really nice aroma coming out of this one, I have to say. So it gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, as I always say, take a little bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time that we taste this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this one is the Holy Mountain, a 7% Kriek style sour beer from the wonderful Holy Goat Brewing in Dundee, back in my motherland of Scotland. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Oh yeah, Stainsbeer all the way. You do get that bit of sour sharpness on the impact there, but this beer mellows out really, really nicely. This is lovely. So, for me, the way this beer goes together is lovely. I mean, it's quite different. It's quite different to what I've had from Holy Goat before. So I've had quite a few Flanders Reds from Holy Goat, and in honesty, when I think about it, the Kriek is one of those styles that, you know, I've had a couple of times, but I'm not madly familiar with it. So yeah, it's interesting to try this one and just and have a little closer look at it. But again, it's a beautiful, beautiful beer, and yeah, I think I'd love to go and work in Belgium for a couple of years and just, you know, try all the different things that are available there. I love the Belgian beers, and Kriek is one of the kind of sub-styles that I should explore a little bit more actually. But Holy Goat, once again, I've done a really, really nice beer here, and I wouldn't expect anything less, in all honesty. So yeah, really good stuff with this one. So I guess a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, so this is great. Where do we start with this? So we'll go to the middle third of the palate as we always do, but I'll say this beer gives you everything you want, but it's quite a smooth and very soft and kind of juicy Kriek style beer, this one. Like, I think the Scottish malt in this one is giving the beer like almost a very slight kind of creaminess and smoothness that you probably wouldn't get in the Belgian Krieks, if you like. The Belgian Krieks would probably have this little bit more of a kind of vinous character to them, whereas this one's it's just that little bit softer and juicy. But anyway, middle third of your palate in this beer. The backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely smooth kind of brown bready bread crust. Well, is it woody? I think there's a little bit of like a smooth oaky kind of character in this one. And probably, I don't know, I've never seen Holy Goat's brewery, but I'm guessing they've probably got, you know, wooden fodders that they age these beers in, and certainly the smoothness of the backbone of this beer would suggest that. So on the middle 30 palate, yeah, you've got that smooth oaky character in there, and further forward you've got that wee bit of vanilla. But then the next layer up is like a little bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bready bread crust that comes out of the beer. So yeah, there's a wee bit of that going on with this one, which is really, really nice. Above that though, you get a good little bit of above that you get a little bit of a kind of sweeter wholemeal brown bready character. So yeah, the sweeter kind of wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one kind of lingers there into the aftertaste. So you've got the bread crust, then a sweeter wholemeal brown bready layer, then above that you start to get the white bread, and the white bread is almost a little bit like a kind of bread and butter type thing. So yeah, I do like that about this one. And above the kind of bread and buttery type quality, then you have then you have a sort of you've got a little bit of a very slightly toasty. No, is it? It's more like you've got the white bready layer, which is kind of bread and buttery. Then it's maybe like a slightly sweeter, like buttery kind of layer almost. I think that's a good way to describe it. But then, yeah, you have this sort of like leathery layer almost. So you can certainly feel like a very slight leatheriness in the middle, on the top of that middle third of your palate there, and then in the center of your, I think that's the oatiness actually. I think it's probably a mix of the wheat. There's like a slightly more dense, smooth white bready character in there, and then I think the oats are kind of adding to that. So yeah, the presence of the wheat and the oat in this one is what's giving you that kind of smoother mouthfeel that I was talking about earlier. That's quite obvious in this beer. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together is quite nice. So yeah, there's definitely a more dense white bready note in there. Above that though, you've got some nice I would say, yeah, you've got that dense white bready layer in there. There's maybe a very slight layer of like almost biscuit. I do think there's maybe a very slight biscuity note in there. But in the dead center of your palate, you've got that little circle in there, and it's like Werther's original butter candy butterscotch almost, and then just a very like slightly fudgy character in the dead center of your palate. So yeah, there's a wee bit like that there, which is quite nice. So yeah, there is, yeah, in the dead centre of your palate, there's a little circle there, which is slightly sweeter biscuit in the base, wee bit of like Werther's original butter candy butterscotch, and then a wee bit of like almost fudgy character in the middle of your palate there. And the sweetness actually lingers into the aftertaste too. But yeah, I think that covers the middle third of your palate with this one. So yeah, for me, I think the way that the middle third of the palate goes together in this one is quite nice, and you do get a slightly bigger graininess out of it into the aftertaste for sure, but you do get some of the sweetness that I was talking about as well. So yeah. Let's go to the back third of your palate then. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of that bready build up in there. So you've got the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and then you feel the more dense, like wheaty sort of oaty character in there. But the base of that back third of your palate, you've got the woodiness, the drier woodiness that I was talking about. Then above that, you have the kind of bread crusty type character as well. Then brown bready notes above that, which feel a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy, I would say, and a wee bit drier. Then you've got the white bready layer above that, which again feels a little bit lighter, taller, airy, and more dry. And then yeah, you can feel the more dense, wheaty and oaty character sitting above that. Then above everything else, it's all about the kind of yeasty side of the beer. So yeah, let's look at that yeasty side of things then. So yeah, the yeasty side of the beer for me is quite, yeah, I would say the yeasty side of the beer is kind of, at its core, it's like a slightly sweet brown bread, and then as you go out from that, it's a little bit more grainy, and then it's the kind of bread crust on the very edge of it. And definitely you can feel on the back third of your palate the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that all of that pieces together in this one, I think is really, really nice. But yeah, do remember that the back third of your palate and the middle third of your palate are going to give you very similar flavours, just at different intensities. But sweeter flavours come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back, and that's quite evident in this beer. But let's go to the kind of fruity and hoppy side of things with this one, if you like. So with this beer, you can tell there's been a little bit of hop added into this one. It's quite obvious. But yeah, in the back corners of the palate, you do have that little touch of earthiness, and it spreads further forward. There's a wee bit of woodiness in there too. Then as you move further forward beyond that, you've got a little bit of floral aromaticity coming out of the beer too, which I think is really quite nice. And yeah, that gets a big thumbs up from me. Round the front curve of the tongue, there's a wee touch of grassiness there too, but you can certainly feel that that's being suppressed a little bit by the, it's certainly being suppressed a little bit by the kind of fruity side of the beer almost. And the cherries are certainly suppressing that a little bit for sure. So, yeah, the way that that goes together is really, really nice. The cherry character in this one is quite soft and juicy, and it just gives you that wee bit of sharpness on the impact. But let's have a wee look at the front third of the palate then, and the fruity side of the beer. So yeah, for me, the kind of fruity side of the front third of your palate with this beer, border region between front and middle third of your palate, you get that little bit of kind of bready build up in there then. So there's the brown bread in the base, the white bread in the middle, and then the kind of more dense wheaty, oaty bread on the top. But the base of that front third of your palate, it's a little bit more yeah, you can feel there's a little bit of the woody character in there. Then you have a wee bit of the kind of brown bready bread crust, the brown bread's there, but then the white bread, I think, and the wheaty oaty kind of layer is a little bit more prominent. Then above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll away out of the hops. That bit is quite subtle in this one because you've got all the cherries in there. So let's just have a wee look at that. So yeah, within that fruity, oily bubble, for me, there's like a little bit of fig, maybe black currant and blackberry, but then all the cherries kind of come in on top of that. So with the impact flavour of this one, just behind that very kind of front tip of the tongue, you can feel that really sharp cherry kind of note come in, and it just kind of mellows out. But at the back of that front third of your palate, the sort of sharpness lingers there into the aftertaste too, and you can feel the cherries just suppressing that little bit of yeah, they're just kind of suppressing the hoppy, the green component of the beer, if we can say that as well. So yeah, it gives you wee touches of like candied strawberry and stuff like that into the aftertaste, but all in all, it's a really nice tasting beer, this one, and it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this one, really quite happy with it. So yeah, I don't know if we can say too much else about the flavour of this one. It's certainly quite soft and juicy, but the cherry sharpness comes in at the start, disappears a wee bit, and then comes out again in the aftertaste, and it certainly does have a bigger and quite smooth malt body to it, this one. So a lot of breadiness in this beer, which I think is really nice. Yeah, I think we can finish off then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. For me, this beer, I like the mouthfeel of this one, but I do get the feeling that for a Kriek, this mouthfeel is a little bit unusual because it has an almost kind of malty creaminess to it. But I would describe this beer as being at the kind of top end of mid-bodied. The carbonation's quite smooth in it. Like I say, it has this kind of smooth, creamy mouthfeel to it. IBU-wise, you're probably talking about 5 or 10 IBUs in this one again, because the sourness is there. It doesn't have too big a kind of sour impact to it, I would say, but you know, some of that sour sharpness does linger there. The malt base, like we said, it's kind of dry underneath, smooth in the middle, and then it's got a bit of a lingering sweetness on top of it there. And yeah, you have this really nice kind of juicy, fruity note to it as well. So yeah, there's a little bit of sharpness on the impact, and yeah, a wee bit of that fruitiness also. So yeah, the way that everything kind of pieces together in this one, I think, is really, really nice. So yeah, gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. I really like this one actually. Very, very good beer. It's not the most authentic of Krieks if you compare it to the lambic ones, of course, but it's a really, really nice beer, and I wouldn't expect anything less from Holy Goat in that regard. So a bit more of a bready and kind of almost creamy Kriek compared to the original Belgians. I think that's a good place to round this one off. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Holy Goat as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the near future. But yeah, this was the Holy Mountain, a 7% Kriek style beer from the wonderful Holy Goat Brewing in Dundee, Tayside, Scotland. So till the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, check out my social media, check out Holy Goat's social media, and I'll see you in another review very, very shortly. Ciao just now.